Hello there, everybody. It is Labor Day at the time of recording, so happy Labor Day. Happy long weekend, assuming you get that. Or assuming that you're at work at all, during this time. Anyways, yes, welcome back to another episode of Nerd Variety. It's the podcast where we talk about all nerd variety things. It's a whole variety of nerd things.
Whole variety.
It's the whole variety. It's whole wheat. Anyways, so today we are talking about emotionally taxing, emotionally exhausting, emotionally draining, whatever term you want to use, video games. And this we've discussed, and I was thinking about it too. This can be anywhere from like the story has really emotional themes. Maybe has some emotional story points. Maybe overall it's emotional.Maybe it has just some very specific moments. And maybe it's just stressful. And maybe you just feel exhausted from playing a certain game. Whatever the case, we're going to talk about them. So it sounds like I probably thought of the most games. I don't know if you guys really play a lot of games like this, but I do, and it's my favorite kind of game usually.
You like feeling involved in the story.
I do, and for me, I just wanted to say, like with video games, I think it's the best medium to have a story where you. And it's the easiest to be emotionally invested and emotionally drained because, you control these characters and you spend more time with them usually than you would in like a movie. Mm-hmm. And maybe even a show, depending. So yeah, and of course, actually taking control and being a part of that and developing relationships with characters is kind of easy for a lot of things. So
now I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Because for me, entire category of emotionally taxing games are horror games.
Yeah.
Just because, I get really wound up and stressed.
Yeah, and there were a few that I was going to talk about.
Okay, so those do count as emotionally taxing?
Yeah. Do they tax you emotionally?
Yeah, but, not in the same way. They don't make me want to cry, or they don't, make me want to think about life. They just make me tense.
So here's the thing. Emotions are multiple. There's not just a single emotion.
There's a whole spectrum of them.
There is a spectrum of emotion.
Emotional
is not only sad.
No, I know.
That's
but
what you were thinking.
No, of course not. But it's also, I don't know. I feel like you say it's a spectrum, which I'm going to get really nerdy here for a second. Makes me think it's like a two-dimensional thing, from happy emotions to sad emotions, and everything.
That was more of a jab at the emotional spectrum and the green lanterns and stuff. But
it's more of they're in reality emotions go in every which direction.
Oh yeah.
So I'm just asking if we're going down the tense direction as well.
Yeah.
And it sounds like the answer is yes. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, that's all.
Sorry. I mean, I asked you before this if you had any questions, and you didn't.
Well, now I have a question. Excuse me. That happens sometimes.
We prep. Okay, listeners, we try to prep for this, but sometimes apparently
emphasis
on
try.
Board.
Well, maybe the listeners want to know what are the criteria as well.
That's why I explained it already at the beginning.
You do.
Anyways, I did.
Anyway.
You know what? So I'm going to start with a game that I talk about a lot lately, it feels like, because it's one that I'd love to talk about now. The Last of Us Part 2, also Part 1, but that is a very emotional franchise. Not only is it really stressful and tense, you get in these moments where you maybe, since you have limited ammo and all that, you get really low on resources and you have to kind of barely make it out of a situation where you got zombies everywhere. But it's also, there are a lot of connections to other characters and just a lot of things that happen. One thing for me that's very emotionally taxing, and just one little aspect of the second one, is there are dogs that hunt you and they can sniff you out, and a lot of times you might have to kill dogs, and I hate doing that in video games.
Yeah.
I hate video games that make me kill dogs.
It's not fun. Even though they're, it's not this. Yeah, it's gotten worse as the dogs become even more like realistic looking and acting. Like,
and the worst part is you're forced to kill a dog that you get to play catch with. You get to do fetch, and you get to pet and play with, and then you have to kill her.
Well, if you watch I Am Legend, that was a good that was a good introduction to that.
But not just the dog thing. There's a lot in the game. You get really good relationships with characters, and again, so spoiler for like the next 30 seconds with The Last of Us Part 2. If you play the first one, you get to play as Joel the entire game, and it's all about him and his relationship protecting Ellie. So they build a really close connection after his daughter got killed at the beginning of the first game. And then at the end of the first game, he decides that he gives up the possibility for a cure to the infection by killing everybody in the hospital just so he can save Ellie. So you have a real close bond. And then in the second one, Ellie's kind of pissed at him because of that. And pretty close to the beginning, Joel gets brutally murdered in front of her. So that right there starts off a really emotional experience, especially if you played the first game so many times and really connected with the characters and their relationship.
Yeah, I feel like I felt similarly at the end of... I've only played one, and I need to play the rest of them. I've only played one of the Walking Dead Telltale games.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the first one, you I can't remember the guy's name, but you play as this guy, the whole time. And then at the very end, you have to basically like leave him handcuffed to a radiator because he's turning into a zombie, and you're just like, okay, bye, I guess.
Yeah, neither option is good. You can either leave him to turn to a zombie, or you can have Clementine shoot him in the face.
Right, and my big thing is the Telltale games, because I've played that one. I've played Tales of the Borderlands. Was not as like emotionally taxing. You do have to scoop a guy's eye out with a spoon, which taxed me emotionally.
The most emotionally taxing part of Tales from Borderlands is when you shoot Butt Stallion and realize that it's an actual horse and it like bleeds.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
But so that one's not as emotionally taxing. But I actually haven't played more of the Walking Dead games because like the first one I was like, hui.
Yeah, so one part that was tough for me in the second season was it's like in the first episode, I think. You're playing as Clementine, and you get cut or something. She gets cut on her arm, and you have to like sew yourself up, sew the wound up while you're already injured somewhere else, I think.
Oh gosh, they're just like they do it so well.
So yeah,
they're like, and that's the whole thing. Like, I mean, to me, the best example of just like their commitment to kind of like I don't know if you'd call it realism, but like to not shying away from like how kind of horrid and grotesque this stuff is sometimes is that covering an eye out with a spoon in Tales from the Borderlands. Like, it's just so visceral.
Yeah.
And they do that really well.
Yeah.
And sorry, go ahead.
Go finish your thought.
I was just saying the Batman games, I feel like are along the same sort of lines. Like, really, you got to do some really kind of miserable stuff, and none of the decisions feel right. And it's just, all in all, just very stressful.
Yeah, it is a lot of realism when you have to make decisions that, you'll be judged upon later, or your actions change the course of also the course of the events of the game, or you have to do, some pretty, you have to defend yourself in a very, unconventional way. Especially, and horror, I guess, even like sci-fi games with horror elements in them, like Halo 3 or Dead Space, where they kind of put you by yourself in a long level with enemies kind of like creeping around you, specifically like the Gravebound level in Halo 3, and then just all of Dead Space. All those levels where you're just kind of by yourself waiting for them to attack you, or just trying to weed your way through the nest of creatures, all which are grotesque and violent, and yeah, it's not for the faint of heart.
No. Well, it's amazing how in the Telltale games, and I feel like there's other similar, like, your choices affect the ending sort of story-based games, like how much additional stress there is from that little pop-up in the corner that's like, so-and-so will remember that.
Yeah.
Just like, crap! Like,
it doesn't always actually have much effect.
No, but like there's something psychological about that. You're just like,
no.
Yeah. What did I do? I don't know.
That's why I hate them.
Yeah.
But I love them too.
That's why I love them, yeah.
I hate them and I love them. I want to play more of the Walking Dead ones now.
Yeah, I've got the whole...
I still haven't finished the last
one.
season.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, I started the first episode of the last season, but I haven't finished it yet.
Wasn't there also a Guardians of the Galaxy one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've never.
Yeah, you're right.
That's the one I always forget about.
I have not played that one.
Yeah.
That and the Minecraft one.
I can't imagine either of those would be as dark as Batman or Walking Dead. Those two specifically are.
Yeah, even with the concept of, I think even with Thanos being in Guardians of the Galaxy, it probably won't be. It probably is not that dark. Not as dark as those.
The Wolf Among Us is. It's more just kind of fun and mysterious. I think it has some moments, but yeah.
Gotcha.
Especially, yeah.
Yeah, if you're looking for something where you're constantly stressed out, I feel like definitely the Walking Dead ones are top-notch, stress-inducing.
Yeah, and one that I wish I could talk more about, but I just started, I guess, the first episode today and haven't really done much research on is, but I feel like it's going to be emotional, I don't know, is called Tell Me Why by Don't Nod. It's the same people that did Life is Strange. Interesting.
Yeah, I've never played Life is Strange. I've seen footage of it because like it's so story based. It felt like
it's like
watching a video
it's like
of
a Telltale game.
Yeah, I know it is.
What is it? What's the premise? If you can do a brief premise.
Tell Me Why or
Life is Strange, and Tell Me Why, because I haven't heard of it. Either of those. Life
is Strange is, like your girl Max who.
She's a high schooler.
Yeah, she finds that she has like this ability to kind of rewind time in like isolated areas and stuff, and she reconnects with like her old best friend that I guess had moved away, and they just it's a nice story, but there's also like this looming disaster that's happening, and there's like a serial killer at the school that you have to kind of be on the lookout for and figure out. It's interesting, especially some twists of like, do you want to like save this person or help this person, or do you want to really mess up a lot of other stuff for a lot more people?
Yeah.
Kill one, save 1,000.
Yeah, and I think
Kill 1,000, save one.
I think I would have more of an emotional connection with it had I actually played it, because I only watched other people play it on YouTube. So I feel like that one in particular, I'm not as into, just because I didn't play it for myself, so I don't know the full like emotional impact of it being like, oh shoot, I actually have to make a decision here. It's a lot easier to judge other people for their decisions than to make your own.
Oh yeah.
And actually, I think Life is Strange Season 2 is different. I think it's totally different characters and everything, but I've not played it.
I think so, yeah.
And Tell Me Why, again, I've just started it, but it starts out like there's this kid, one of the main characters, it's a brother-sister. The brother is a trans man. They make that very clear, like right off the bat, pretty much. And I guess like he went to juvie or something for like 10 years, something like that, because he killed his mother when she tried to kill him, when she pulled a gun on him. So yeah.
Well,
that sounds
yeah, and it picks
uplifting.
up like after that he gets out and I don't know. I guess they go back to their childhood house, and they have like some special connection where they can like read each other's minds and stuff.
Yeah, someone's gonna need therapy.
Yeah, really. Are either of you familiar with Until Dawn?
Yeah.
Because that's a horror game, and so
yeah.
there's that added horror element of stress, but like it's also a kind of like a your actions affect the outcome, because there's like items you can pick up to sort of get clues about what to do, but like you basically can end the game multiples of ways, and there specifically is an ending where everyone survives and an ending where everyone dies. And so like there's kind of this pressure throughout the whole time that like the characters will just die, and then like that's just it for them. And you're like, okay, cool. Well, that person's dead. They're never coming back. So that one's an interesting one as well.
I will remember you.
Yeah, but it's actually it's got a really good story. It's fun because it starts off with like teenage kids in the cabin in the woods, and it's snowy, and they're in the mountains, and like, oh, the power's not on, and we don't have phone signal. But so it starts out like very tropey, but then it like totally diverges from that. It's fun.
Yeah. Well, actually, oh god, I just had something. I don't know. Hannah, what'd you do with my
I don't know. I didn't mean to. I'm
okay.
sorry.
Well, I'll come back to that. One game that I was going to talk about, which isn't exactly, I mean, I think the creator, I think they call it like an experience. It's a game. It's a different kind of game. It's called, I got it on Steam. I think it was free a little bit ago. I am assuming it still is. It's called When the Darkness Comes. That one can be quite...
What is that one about?
Exhausting. So it's really interesting because it's, a lot of stuff is vague enough for the player to kind of implant their own fears and everything on what's happening. So yeah, I don't even really know how to describe it. And also it's not all necessarily super vague. Like you can see certain things they're pushing a little more for, like social anxiety. There's a sequence where you have to like find your way through these alleys, and there are some stores, and all the like other characters basically that you will come across, they have like really disturbing like blocky red and black faces that do this thing. They have like really bright eyes.
Interesting.
And it's kind of...
Yeah,
it can get to you.
I feel like I've seen a number of things that, again, are marketed more as experiences, where because they're video games or they have that sort of format, they have a really unique ability to like synthesize what it's like to suffer from depression or PTSD or things like that, where you can essentially have like almost like audio hallucinations and things like that, because it's all just programmed into the game, and like make the visuals warp and stuff like that. So it's a really unique and really powerful medium for like highlighting kind of what people who suffer from those things go through.
And for this game, they actually do some kind of interesting, kind of fun stuff where like once you... so going through it, they'll like pull from your computer. So if you have like your name set as your your user, then it'll show you that name like in the game randomly, like it's talking to you. Although it doesn't work as well if you have a weird username or something that's not your name. They'll also change some files on your computer and add some.
No. Stop it.
Yeah, I was going to mention, do either of you know of Doki Doki Literature Club?
I feel like I've heard of it, but
yeah. I think I've seen I've seen it advertised. I've heard of it. Yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah, so there is that element of it. It's basically, there's a character named Monica, and she basically like is a sentient file on your computer. And so the whole process is she's trying to get it's a dating simulator, and so she's trying to get you to fall in love with her. And in order to do that, she takes like some personality flaws that the other girls have and like really escalates them to the point of suicide. For all three other girls, I think at some point commit suicide, and then she's like,
Wow.
we just don't need them, and we'll like delete the character files off your computer. And it's trippy, and like legitimately the first time I watched someone play through it, I like had to pause it, and I was just like, oh my gosh, because it comes across as like really light and stupid, but it also has that perspective of the Telltale games where it's like none of the options you have as the protagonist are good. Like you're just kind of an ass to everyone, and like it's I can't explain it. It's really good.
I can appreciate a game that makes me paranoid or makes me question.
At one point, one of the girls
feel bad for my decisions.
Yeah, one of the girls is like obsessed with you, and she confesses to you, and you have the choice to like accept her love or to reject her. No matter which one you choose, she stabs herself in the stomach.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
Well,
speaking of, I guess that's more of an in-game event or a consequence to what you do. But I think there are a lot of games that actually have like story like points that are really emotionally draining too, right? I'm thinking of a couple games in particular. Have any of you played the Mafia games?
No, not yet. I keep wanting to, and I'm kind of waiting for the definitive edition. I think they already did a definitive edition of 2, but I know 1 is coming out soon.
And they're looking at doing a 3, I think.
Could be.
But I played Mafia 2 on the 360, and it was a really fun game. A lot of like, felt like it. You play a gangster who works his way up from the ground level to like hanging out with the top mob bosses. But at the end of the game, spoiler alert, they're you and your friend Joe, who have been working the game ever since you started. He gets in trouble for doing something, and you see him you guys leave the place of the place of the final conflict. You get one car, he gets another car, and it's hinted that he's being taken away somewhere else to be killed. So it's like you've made your way to the top, but you've lost your best friend you lose your best friend in the process.
Yeah.
And there's also Gears of War 2.
Okay.
The scene where Dom's talking about his wife throughout the whole game, and then he finds his wife in where the enemy's called, I forget. Locust.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, he finds her in a Locust, dungeon, whatever, and she's just emaciated and a shell of her former self, and he has to put her out of her misery, and it's a very unexpected and sad scene.
Yeah.
I just keep thinking about, and Hunter, I think you know more about this game than I do. What Remains of Edith Finch?
Yeah, I was gonna mention that one. I think that's what I was gonna say earlier, but when I lost it, thank you.
Because I'm more or less familiar with it, but I know you have more experience.
Yeah, I played through it twice.
That's a bit more experience.
Yeah. So it's kind of it's emotional. The thing that I think makes it less emotional is that they basically tell you what you're in for exactly at the beginning. Like they tell you, everybody in this family pretty much, this family's cursed, and everybody meets some kind of bad fate. Like they either disappear, or most of the time I think they die. So you pretty much know all of that going into it. And there are some in particular that are still kind of tough, like depending on, of course, how invested you are, but that kind of goes with any game. But yeah, what did you have about it?
I just remember the scene with like the brother or something. I don't know. All I remember is he was male, and he's like working in the fish factory.
Yeah, I remember that one too.
And he's like going through the motions of like cutting these heads off of fish and setting them down an assembly line, but like daydreaming in the process.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't. What exactly was the implications of like the end of that scene?
I think it was that he probably killed himself.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And then you also have, I think the baby that I think drowned.
God.
Yeah, I was thinking about there was something like that as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like the whole family just like met terrible fates one way or another. And what's really interesting about it is they go through it in a way that like they're not super upfront about anything. Like it's not gonna like, you know, be listed as like, I don't know. It's interesting because they're not super upfront about it, but it's pretty easy also. I'm guessing I know what happened here.
Yeah, there's no cutscene to show you that this is how they died.
Yeah, there's no footage of a drowning baby.
Yeah,
they're not explicit about everything.
Right. But they're so they do it in such a way that even though it's not explicit, it's very clear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's probably the best way to play it, because I don't think people would play a game like that.
No,
or they would make a game
I don't
like that.
think that it would be like. I think that it would not be something people would be allowed to play.
No, probably not.
I don't think so.
You know,
Nope.
you never know. But kind of along those lines, actually, I have a few now that I want to talk about all at once. I need to split into like 3 people, and we're all going to talk over each other.
Oh, gosh.
No,
Please.
so I'm not. That would be terrible for the world. In fact, I'm just going to take it one step at a time. Talking about like, well, earlier there was, you talking about how games can really kind of put you in the mindset of people with certain mental disorders or something. 2 really come to mind to me immediately. The first one is Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, which she has like a psychosis, I think, where like she hears like a lot of voices constantly, and it's really good, especially to play with like headphones, because you start hearing these voices kind of distantly all around everything, and it helps you out. Sometimes they help you out. A lot of times they're very negative, and but it's interesting just how they portray all of that. And the second one's coming out soon, I think it might be a launch title with the next Xbox, but I can't remember for sure if that's verified. So that's an interesting one. There's also Blair Witch, which is the game.
I'm familiar with that one.
Yeah, that game came out, I think, last year. Mm-hmm. And I actually really like it. I may have talked about it last year on the podcast, but excuse me. It deals with the main character who has PTSD, and he has like
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I guess it's a service dog.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a service dog. And I think there's one scene in particular where the dog runs off and doesn't come back for a while.
Yeah, the dog can run off, and if he's away for too long, like the screen starts to kind of blacken around you.
Yeah, they do a really good job of like showing, like making. I mean, obviously he's walking through the forest at nighttime, so it's already a little scary. But they have a really good way. So. Yeah, they do it really, really well. Like they just intensify the scariness and like really get you in those moments. It's
again, good. Like at the end, I'm gonna try not to really spoil anything. I don't know what would spoil it though, because it's still kind of a weird one. Like at the end, you're in this area where, and this was something that really stood out to me as being pretty creative. Like you have to keep looking away because you're not like supposed to look at this character or something. And it gets to a point where they just kind of slowly close this space that you can't look at. And
Slenderman?
No, Blair Witch.
Okay.
So they really close this space slowly until basically all you can do is keep your head looking down at the floor. And then you have, I guess the Blair Witch is even, commenting on you about that. Like, you can't even look at you like how horrible you are. You can't even look at yourself in the mirror and all this. And it's just like you get really claustrophobic, even I did at least. And like you're stuck looking down here because you're like, I know if I look up or something, it's going to be horrible and I'm going to die. And yeah, it just.
So it's interesting because they like seem to mix like the sort of like mental, almost I guess like a mental disorder, like anxiety and PTSD with just like your typical horror game anxiety, like tenseness.
Yeah.
Like they do both at the same time, which sounds like terrible, basically.
Yeah. That's actually why I really liked the game. I don't think it got really much attention. I don't think it really got really good reviews. I'm not sure, but I thought it was good, if only for that.
Yeah. Well, as far as emotional, we talked about a lot of like, mental, I guess, things that stimulate fear, stress, anxiety, kind of, or just saddening things. What about anger-inducing things?
Oh yeah.
Like I was thinking about, I get really ticked off with games that rely on you having to save the game, save your progress, or if you just don't save your game correctly. Well, what happens? Oh, there goes about 4 hours of my life.
Yeah, I learned
And
about multiple save.
There goes a $60 controller.
I learned about multiple save files the hard way.
Yeah.
Actually, this just happened with me the other day, although I wasn't super upset about it. Because I picked up the Resident Evil, I guess it was like, just a port of the old remaster by this point. The original one, And yeah, I got a little bit, not super far, so I was like, okay. But I had like just come to like the first or second save point, like the typewriter. And I was like, I'm not going to save yet. It's too soon. I don't need to. And of course I went in the next room and died.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I have to restart it all over again.
Yeah.
I'm not playing this right now.
I was playing.
No, I need a break. I need some time.
Oh, I had the same sort of experience. I keep thinking about this recently when I was trying to like restart Skyrim. And you have to go through that whole intro sequence where you're in Helgen, and then you have to go through the caves, and there's a bear. And right where there's the bear, there's a cart that has money in it. I think I've told you guys this before.
Yeah.
Maybe
You said this, I think, last
in the
week.
physics.
I jumped in the cart, and it hit me a bunch, and I was just like, nope, that's it. I'm done. I'm not going through all this again. Because, forgot to save. And so,
Yeah, so you rage quitted because you didn't save.
Yeah.
I learned with Skyrim especially that I really love the quick save.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah, quick save for the win.
Yes.
Especially for...
That's when I stack. I quick save. Okay, I took 5 steps. Yeah. Quick save.
I also...
Especially knowing that when you're in a dungeon and, a very intense battle could send you all the way back to the start of said dungeon.
Yeah, I also remember the first time I played through Persona 3, which is a game that requires a lot of grinding, and I got very tired of grinding, and so I just kind of skipped the grinding, and then I got to the final boss, and I couldn't beat him because it wasn't strong enough, and I only had one save file, and I was just like, I've never beaten that game, because I never went back to it and like tried again.
Yeah, I
was like, nope, that's it.
Yeah.
Lately, I've been getting into a habit, and this is probably just, maybe it's me trying to make games more challenging or stressful. I've decided to pretty much stick to one save file and to keep overwriting that save. So I've been doing that with a few games.
Saving when goes as far back as like playing Pokemon. If your battery's dying on your Game Boy, or there's a glitch, or playing on a system and there's a power outage, just those types of like technical glitches, you lose all that time, and then you're done with the game for a period of time. But it may leave opportunities for you to maybe do something that you were supposed to be doing in the game. When you go back to it, you may be able to make better progress. Yeah,
there are things like that, where if you're forced to stop doing a main thing in a game. Sometimes you may just want to get back in the game and just do some of the more I don't know what's the word? Yeah, just like some things to increase your character, some housekeeping type thing.
Yeah, you calm down and like you calm down from like, okay, I don't need to do the main thing right now. I can go off to do this and just take care of the business, you know.
To me, that's also if you just keep dying constantly in a game.
Right. Yeah.
And actually, you know, for me, that just talking about, you know, power outages and stuff, of course, that made me think of first time I played. I think this could go for everybody. The first time they played Batman Arkham Asylum, and that third Scarecrow gas segment. You know what I'm talking about, Josh?
I know there's a couple of them because he's kind of a reappearing villain.
Well, it's the third one, which is the last one, and that's when your screen like cuts up and does the glitchy thing, and then it looks like it starts you back at the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
And again, when it was new, of course, it was like you didn't know it was coming. You're just like, wait, what? What just happened? And then it looks like it starts over. You're like, you're so far in the game by that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then it's like, oh, okay.
Okay. They got me there.
Yeah. I only had a mild heart attack because of it.
Yep.
So that's good.
Yep. What are some of the harder games that you guys have played that have just made you like? Hannah mentioned something about throwing her, or one of you mentioned something about throwing a controller.
Yeah, I think I do.
I don't throw controllers. I can control my angle, think of it much.
I mean, I do too.
Okay.
But I know a lot of people throw controllers.
Yeah. Either breaking said controller or said TV.
I especially stopped being that person when I started having to pay for the replacements.
Oh yeah, that'll change your attitude real quick.
A couple times, yeah, because it's like those are not cheap to replace.
No. Some of the harder games that I think it started with like playing Super Mario. It's just the movements are so precise, and then that's carried on with like I don't play. I play Cuphead's more of the game, a similar game, but it's more, you know, in today's time what I would play, to where I'm playing the game and it's just the slightest margin of error, you know, and you're dead. You get 3 lives and that's it. Then you start over. Then you have to start over. It's just
that one can be tough. In fact, I think I may have told you this before, but Cuphead is a game where I literally have gotten to the final boss. I got to the devil. I fought him like twice, and I'm like, no, I'm done. And I still have never finished it.
Yeah, same here.
That was like when it was new.
Yeah.
I got to that.
Yeah, it's so easy to love the game, but just you know that you can't. That you don't like it that much to finish it.
But also, I was going to mention, you know, speaking of difficult games, if you find it difficult, which a lot of people do, I did, you know, of course, my first time, which a lot of people I think are likely to. Dark Souls, specifically the first one, especially because if you're not used to it or anything, there's going to be a lot of times where an enemy will come from behind a wall or sometimes drop from a ceiling. And if you haven't played it before and you don't know they're there, that will give you a heart attack right on the spot. And it kind of has for me, sometimes even when I know they're there. Also, you know, you may be a nice innocent player going and you see a chest and you go to open it.
Yeah, treasure.
And then hands come out and it has sharp teeth and it grabs you and eats you and kills you.
Yeah, you feel personally attacked because you're just trying to do what the game.
Mimic.
Yeah, you're just doing what you've been conditioned to do.
Yeah, happens. Yeah. Sucks. Anyways, there were a couple real quick ones that I just wanted to mention because I haven't played them myself, but I've heard about them, and I'm already a bit mentally prepared to not play them because I'm exhausted just by thinking about them and from what I've heard. The first one may be more emotional than the second one, but it's called That Dragon Cancer. I don't know if either of you have heard that.
No. I would remember if I heard that. That game.
So it's like, I guess it's by these parents or this couple that when their child was like very young, I don't remember exactly how old, like maybe 3 or 4 or something like that, maybe younger. He was diagnosed with cancer, and it's like just about their struggle with that as parents, just trying to keep up with everything that's going on with that. And eventually the child died at a very young age. So yeah, it's that right there is quite a bit. So that's kind of put me off of the game because I'm like, I don't know if I can do that.
That's really dark. Yeah, that is Hello Darkness, my old friend.
And then there's one called, I actually looked it up on Steam the other day. It's Hannah, you may have heard of it. Is it Take Me to the Moon or something like that?
Yeah, I think are you just talking about To the Moon?
To the Moon, that's what it is. Yeah, To the Moon. Have you played that or heard of it?
I've heard of it. Yeah, I think correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't it like a RPG Maker game?
I'm not entirely sure. I've never played it. I've just heard it. I've heard about it on other websites or YouTube.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, I think it is an RPG Maker game. So, if you don't know, RPG Maker is like you could make really simple RPG games. I think that's what they used to make it. But it apparently, has a really, really moving storyline. I don't think I've seen it all the way through.
Yeah.
But
moving as in it's sad, right?
I think so, yeah, because I think the whole thing revolves around a man who's dying and kind of exploring his life, I guess.
Where are y'all finding these games at?
Well, he's like an old guy. He's like on his deathbed and his family's coming to visit. That's what I think it's about.
Well, I was thinking it was like his wife's dying wish or something was to go to the moon. And
yeah, something like that.
Yeah, again, it's been a long time, which is why I didn't want to. Yeah, obviously, I can't really spend much time talking about it because I haven't played it, but I've heard it.
But still a surprising amount of time talking about it.
Yeah, I do that a lot about things I don't know.
I know.
Still, that's the best way to do things.
Exactly. But yeah, you guys got anything else?
Just to go further, going into rage quitting. There's some. I read a blog by Platinum Paragon, and they have a nice little article about talking about rage quitting, the psychology behind it. Talked about how we feel the effects of losing twice as hard as winning, and that rage quitting is kind of a loss aversion measure, so we don't end up like it's losing more time or feeling more depressed that we're not making these advancements in the game, and how games like to push on those emotions by showing you scores or putting up in big letters "you died" or "you failed" to keep encourage you to keep playing. But there's a lot of interesting psychology to it.
Yeah. A lot of online games will make me do that.
Yeah, make you think about your life and the world.
Sure, and also just get really upset and leave and never come back.
Yeah, burn the house down.
Yeah. Sorry, that just made me think of Portal 2. Anyways, anything else? Or are we wanting to wrap up now? Which I think that's about our time.
I'm hungry.
Yes. Well, you should have eaten beforehand. I ate literally like 3 minutes before we started.
I didn't want to because my dad's making hamburgers. I want to go eat a hamburger.
I forgot about that. I want your hamburgers now. Bring them to me.
So.
Okay, fine. All right. Next week, I believe, is scheduled for Hannah with our
speaking
guest.
Of being hungry, next week we're going to talk about future food. So we're going to be looking at some representations of what food looks like in the future with our guest, my sister, who is practicing to be a nutritionist right now.
Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it'll be fun.
Yeah, nice. So looking forward to that. And that was this week's episode of Emotionally Taxing Games. So hope you guys listening are not emotionally taxed, exhausted.
I'm getting there. I'm getting there very quickly.
That happens with me. Yeah, hopefully not from just listening, but I hope at least you come back if you are. And yeah, that was our episode. I'm terrible at closing out, and I should never do it. So see you guys next week for Future Foods. Until then, nerd out.
Nerd out.
Adios. Farewell.